Hello po. Good morning to everyone.
Morning, sir!
Uy, si sister lang siya. Baka
Hello po. Pasensya na medyo may lang no, konting technical difficulties because we are in a hybrid platform. So right now I am here at Rehoboth dito sa Kamiling Tarlac, and I understand that some of you here who are participants dito sa Zoom natin are social workers from and house parents from Tarlac. Okay, connected with AppsNet. So today po, my discussion will revolve around RA 11930 or yung ating anti-online sexual abuse and exploitation of children and Child Sexual Abuse and Exploitation Materials Act. Basically we will be this will be a short discussion of the salient provisions of the law, and mamaya for towards the end we will have a question and answer para po sa mga practical na questions nyo regarding sa handling ng OSAEC at CSAEM cases, no? So to begin, ayan. So marami tayong sa ngayon, maraming mga news o maraming mga balita tungkol sa online sexual exploitation ng mga bata online, no? And itong trend na ito in human trafficking, this by the way, yung OSAEC or CSAEM is a new form of human trafficking which targets children, no? And during the pandemic, dahil nga parang practically everyone does not have parang livelihood, parang nagkaroon ng decline in the livelihood ng mga tao, and at the same time the rise of internet related interactions. That's why dumami yung cases natin ng online child exploitation in the Philippines. Now that is according to the OJ as early as 2020. In a study conducted now by the UNICEF, there is an alarming the Philippines emerged as the center of child sexual abuse materials in the world, no? Worldwide, tayo ang isa sa mga top producers ng online sexual abuse materials, no? And there's a reason for that, no? There are things about Filipino culture that makes us susceptible to online sexual abuse and exploitation of our children, no? Which I will explain later. In another news, no, in 2022, may 5 persons na arrested for sale of child sexual abuse and exploitation materials, no? This is in Pampanga, according to the National Bureau of Investigation of the Philippines, no? And then parang more recently, this is just I think this is last week, no, kung di ako nagkamali, or last week, nagkaroon tayo ng case ng isang babae and her cohorts in Angeles, Pampanga, at nakatimbog sila ng 8 nakatimbog sila ng isang babae and her cohorts who are exploiting children who are 8 minors, no, including a 10-month-old child for online sexual abuse and exploitation, no? Unfortunately, it can go as young as that, and usually the patrons of these trafficking activities are foreigners. So there's really no boundaries, no? There's really no lower limit kung yung mga yung mga nagiging subject ng exploitation of children. And also just recently may example, may case na tayo where a court convicts a mother for selling private photos and videos of her daughter, no? So you will see later on, we will see in the news, no, and as a trend, that most OSAEC or online sexual abuse and exploitation of children and CSAEM or yung child sexual abuse and exploitation materials distribution happens within the home, no? Sometimes it's the parents who are trafficking their children. Sometimes it's someone they know personally, no? And most of these cases happen within the context of the home. So this is an alarming trend right now, And gaya nga ng sinabi ko kanina, the Philippines is a hotspot when it comes to online sexual abuse and exploitation of children. And in fact, according to our meeting with the DOJ, these kinds of activities somehow affect our standing in the international community when it comes to trading, because kasi yung mga ano natin, yung mga perang pumupunta galing sa abroad, no, na mga pera papunta sa Pilipinas are dirty money. These are money that are earmarked for activities like this, online sexual exploitation of children. So it affects us internationally, but more than that, it affects our children. No? And we may not know it yet, pero within your jurisdictions, maaaring may mga ano pa, no? Maaaring may mga kaso pa ng OSAEC at CSAEM violations that you might not even know. The problem with this kind of trafficking is that it's done online, no? It's not really physically hindi siya, wala siyang physical manifestations. It happens just in front of a computer, no? So it's really difficult to prosecute these kinds of cases. So with this, there are statistics, no? As early as 2000, there are the Department of Justice Office of Cybercrime in 2018 received 579,000 tips about online sharing, resharing, and selling of child sexual abuse and images and videos. Just for context now, because I've been studying this. These happen even in social media, no? Just like Twitter, which is now X, no? And also in other messaging platforms such as Telegram, and other unregulated platforms where you can exchange files. This happen, and there are also access links that you can pay for, no? So it's a pay-per-view type of subscription type of transaction. So it happens everything happens online, kaya mahirap siyang i-prosecute. No? So why are Filipino children exploited and abused online? No? Because perpetrators really find it easy to scout Filipino perpetrators who they can pay to abuse and exploit children. Why? Because most Filipinos speak and understand English, no? Madaling makipag-usap sa mga Pinoy na perpetrators because they can understand English properly, no? They can communicate in English properly, and it's very easy because there is the prospect of money, no? Merong monetary considerations, of course. And in Filipino culture, unlike in other cultures, iniiwan ng bata sa bahay. They leave the children at home. So they sometimes put the children under the care of a trusted neighbor or a trusted relative, no, without really checking much on them, because they feel that in Filipino culture, if you entrust a child to another person, they will expect that you will take care of the child. But again, because of these arrangements, dahil sa mga gantong na hinahayaan yung mga bata na nasa bahay, kaya mas madali silang maging victims of OSAEC and CSAEM. And finally, and most importantly, because many Filipino families live below the poverty line, no? Because there is the industry is lucrative, no? If you think about it, the trafficking industry in the Philippines is so lucrative that, and it's so easy to do because it's online, right? So they just share or transfer files, no? So, and then you get easy money out of that. So ayan. And we have this mentality that if a child is not being touched, or if a person is not being touched, there's really no sex involved, no? And that's the Filipino psyche. Pero the problem is that even just photos and videos of a child na who in uncompromising situations is already considered as OSAEC or CSAEM under our national laws, and actually under international agreements or under international instruments, no? So medyo susceptible ang mga Pilipino sa OSAEC or CSAEM. That's why it's a problem. And it will continue to be a problem unless we do something about it. No? So, that is why under the Philippines came up with this law, yung Anti-Online Sexual Abuse or Exploitation of Children and Anti-Child Sexual Abuse or Exploitation Materials Act. No? So here, these are these are two concepts that we will be discussing later. But ito basically is the law is trying to prevent acts that are that compromise our children when it comes to trafficking them sexually for sexual materials and for live shows, mga ganyan. No? So ano ba tong OSAEC na to or CSAEM? So if you will be hearing this words later, itong OSAEC or CSAEM, when we say OSAEC, we are referring to anti-sexual abuse or exploitation of children, and when we say CSAEM, it is anti-child sexual abuse or exploitation materials. No? So it is one thing to abuse a child while online. It is another thing to distribute materials, no, that contain sexual abuse or exploitation of children online. So that's two different but related acts. No? So for the purpose of this law, familiar naman tayo dito, no? Na ang usual na definition natin ng child is someone who is below 18 or someone who is above 18 but cannot take care of themselves. Diba? Yan po yung usual na definition natin ng child. Pero under this new law, there is a new definition of a child. No? Una, a person, regardless of age, who is presented, depicted, portrayed as a child is also considered a child. No? Kahit na above 18 na yan, kung ang pinapagmukha or pinapalabas na bata siya in these materials, he or she is considered a child regardless of his or her age. No? So, kunwari, she is being trafficked as a 16-year-old, pero she's actually 20 or 21 or mukhang bata lang pero siya, no? As long as you make it appear that the person is a child, he or she is still considered a child under this law. Why is that? Para ma-prosecute pa rin yung mga ma-prosecute pa rin yung mga perpetrators nito kahit na hindi minor yung involved. Kasi nga dinidepict siya as minor. Or it could also be even in fact under this law, hindi kailangan tao ang child, no? It could be OSAEC or CSAEM could be a victimless offense dahil kahit computer-generated, digitally or manually crafted images or graphics of a person represented as a person and as a child, that could be considered as a child as well for the purpose of prosecuting OSAEC or CSAEM. It does not need to have an actual victim. Maaaring AI-generated yung victim natin, maaaring computer-generated, maaaring illustrated yung victim natin. Victim in quotes kasi hindi naman siya tao, no? Pwede, pero just the same, as long as it is a child and it is portrayed as in the sexual sense, that could be considered as a sexual abuse or exploitation material or online sexual abuse or exploitation. Anyway, no? Kahit cartoon yan, kahit animated, as long as a child is involved, then it could be considered as OSAEC or CSAEM. So ano ba yung child sexual abuse? Of course, this is any kind of communication through any platform wherein the child is being used for act or activity involving sexual stimulation or if the purpose is sexual gratification or the pursuit of desire to have carnal knowledge with the child. So kung ang purpose ng communicate with the child is yung may sexual desire, may sexual stimulation para ba kumbaga to gratify a person who is at the other line or the other side of the conversation, that could be considered as child sexual abuse regardless of the gender of the perpetrator or the victim. So it doesn't matter whether the perpetrator is a male, female, or someone with diversogy, no? Or the victim is also the same, no? Ganun din. Regardless of the gender and regardless of the consent of the victim. As long as kahit na nag-consent yung victim, basta below 18 siya, that is still considered as child sexual abuse. Okay? Again, immaterial kahit na pumayag yung bata, no? It doesn't matter. As long as bata siya, at pumayag siya, that could be considered as child sexual abuse. Now, the difference between child sexual abuse and online sexual abuse and exploitation of children is because yung kasi itong OSAEC is done online. No, child sexual abuse does not necessarily happen online, but for under this law, what is being prohibited is online sexual abuse and exploitation of children. Any use of ICT, no, kahit na merong actual na offline abuse, as long as it is projected online or as long as it is videotaped and sent online, that becomes online sexual exploitation and abuse. No? Imagine, kahit na ang gamitin mo lang dyan ay messenger, mag-send ka lang ng video ng bata, mag-send ka ng naked photos ng bata, kahit sa messenger, sa Facebook, sa Twitter, sa Instagram, or whatever, no, platform, Telegram, Viber, WhatsApp, no, all of these applications, as long as you send it to another person through online, that is online sexual abuse and exploitation and child sexual abuse and exploitation materials. What forms ang pwedeng mag-take ang child sexual abuse and exploitation? It could be visual, video, audio, even written or combinations thereof, electronic, mechanical, digital, optical, magnetic, or any other means of publication, no? And it involves real, no, even real sexual acts or simulated sexual acts, kahit na hindi nga siya actual na sexual act, as long as it is simulated, or depictions of sexual acts, no, all of these are covered. Kasama din dyan ang materials that focus on the genitalia and private parts of a child. No, so if you distribute these materials, that is CSAEM. So the law is extensive, no? Maraming coverage yung batas na yung batas na ito, no? Ano ba yung mga pinagbabawal na mga acts under this law? Of course, una is soliciting participation, which means hiring, employing, using, persuading, inducing, extorting, engaging, or coercing a child to perform or participate in any way in the creation or production of any form or OSAEC or CSAEM. So, binayaran mo man yung bata, no, in-employ mo, kahit binayaran mo yan, kahit may bayad na yung ginawa niya, or pinersuade mo siya, or ginamit mo yung bata, or in-induce mo yung bata, or pinuwersa mo yung bata, whether it's forceful or not, no, as long as there is a child involved there, in the performance or production of materials or any performance of OSAEC or CSAEM, that is a prohibited act under our law. Production, no, even the directors, no, those who direct, those who produce, kung sino yung mga gumagawa ng mga video na to, kahit na facilitator ka lang, no, kahit na nandoon ka lang sa taga-set up ka ng ilaw, no, you're setting up the lights, taga-gawa ka ng script, ikaw yung gumagawa, ikaw yung narrator, or in whatever way you assist in the production of these materials, or even the direction, facilitation, or creation of these materials, you are considered to have violated our OSAEC and CSAEM law. Marami pa yan. Sale and other transfers. Even just the act of offering, kahit hindi mo pa nabenta, no? Offering, selling, distributing, advertising, promoting, exporting, and importing any form of CSAEM is also prohibited under this law, no? So yung mga pagbebenta, pagta-transfer, kahit na lang yan, kahit na kunwari, sa GC, no? Sa GC yung magkakaibigan, isinishare nyo yung child sexual exploitation material. You can be prosecuted for that kasi you are distributing the material regardless of monetary consideration. No, may pera man yan o wala, as long as distribute mo yung material, that is prohibited under our law. Publication. Any way of publishing, transmitting, or broadcasting any form of CSAEM, gaya ng sabi ko kanina, no? If you post it on Facebook, if you post it on a website, if you share it on Telegram, or you give access links sa mga patrons mo sa Telegram, and then mapupunta siya sa Google Drive, or ibino-broadcast yan in any way via live stream, no? Live stream or other means na ma-broadcast mo yung CSAEM is prohibited under our law. If you are a parent, no, or a house parent or a guardian of a person, and then you inallow mo na gamitin yung so this is permission, no? Kapag inallow mo yung bata to engage in any form of CSAEM, you are also liable. Pati mga magulang dito, kaya nga madalas ang nahuhuli dito mga magulang, 'di ba? Kasi they are permitting. Kahit na hinayaan mo lang, kahit hindi ikaw mismo yung gumawa ng material, you can be prosecuted for violation of this law. Facilitating streaming. For example, your participation is ikaw ang nag-set up ng live stream. Ikaw yung nag-produce, ikaw yung nag-direct, ikaw yung gumawa, or ikaw nag-employ ka ng mga gagawa nun, no? Or you paid someone, you paid a facilitator. Hindi man ikaw yung nagtitake ng video, pero you hired someone to take the videos of these children performing sexual acts, no? Then you are also facilitating the streaming of this or streaming and publication of these materials. So, kahit na ang ginawa mo lang doon, nag-set up ka lang, humiram ka ng HDMI cord para gamitin para sa streaming, you are still liable here. Okay? As long as you facilitated any form of participation in the production, direction of these materials is considered as violation of the law. Even when you stream it yourself, no, through your Facebook, through YouTube, through any other means of any form of sexual abuse and exploitation, that is also considered as OSAEC or CSAEM. So iba yung facilitating streaming. Yung facilitating streaming is nag-assist ka in the streaming of the material. In the streaming, ikaw mismo yung nag-stream. Medyo may dinidifferentiate lang natin kasi magkakaiba sila ng level of participation, so they have different levels of liability rin towards the end, no? Okay. Recruitment, no? If you recruit a child who is being used for CSAEM or OSAEC, if you transport, kunwari, dinala mo yung isang bata from one place to another, tapos ang purpose pala nun ay pala nito, siya ay gagamitin pala for trafficking, no? That you are also involved here. Transferring a child, harboring a child, no? Kunwari, pinagamit mo yung bahay mo as sa isang older person, and then or someone who is directing these materials. If you have your house used for the production of these materials, if you provide any form of support, or if you received a child, no, or you induce a child to do it, that is considered recruitment and punishable under the law. Matching, no? Matching is parang kumbaga you are facilitating yung kunwari kahit na hindi ikaw yung nagpo-produce ng materials, kahit na hindi ikaw yung nag-abuse dun sa bata, pero you match the child with another foreigner, with a foreigner, or even any person for that matter, hindi naman necessarily foreign national. Kapag ikaw yung naging rason kung bakit sila nakapag-chat, no? You are also involved here. You can also be prosecuted for violation of the OSAEC and CSAEM law. Okay. If you distribute it as film in theaters or any form of ICT services by yourself or in cooperation with other entities, you distribute yung CSAEM or you facilitate in the commission of the CSAEM, then you may be liable for under this act. In fact, no, if you are liberal in constructing or interpreting this law, even yung mga platforms that allow for these kinds of materials to be distributed can be prosecuted under this law actually, no? If it happens in Facebook, for example, or other social media and other platforms, then if you are strict about interpreting this law, or if you are more liberal, if you are more liberal and more more liberal in your understanding of this provision, then you can actually parang prosecute someone for ICT services provided under this law if they are not doing anything to curtail yung production and distribution of these materials. Okay. If you knowingly benefited from any act here committed, or in this arrangement, kahit na wala kang ginawa, as long as you benefited financially, then financial or otherwise pala, no, any other benefit other than financial, pwede rin dyan. So kapag nag-benefit ka, for example, you're not doing anything, no, you're not doing anything about the production, but you know it and you are being paid. For example, Guardia ka ng isang facility. You are a guard in a facility. Tapos you know, no, you know that may nangyayaring online sexual exploitation dun sa lugar, and then you don't do anything. Wala kang ginagawa doon, and you are being paid. No, you are being paid to shut your to shut your mouth about it. You can also be prosecuted under this law. So kung mapapansin niyo, masyadong the coverage of the law is broad, precisely because they want to parang cover all grounds, no, that even yung passive mo na participation, like yung nga having financial benefit doon sa transaction, is already enough for you to be prosecuted under the law, no? Okay. Provision of venue. Even just providing the venue for the acts is already prohibited. In fact, there are moves to include yung mga hotels natin, yung mga accommodations in the fight against OSAEC or CSAEM, because these things happen in those establishments, no? And just providing the venue could be, no, a violation. As long as you are, of course, there is complicity on your end, no. It could be private rooms, cubicles, cinemas, houses, and other establishments. As long as you provided the venue for this activity, then you are privy to the transaction. Therefore, you are liable for OSAEC or CSAEM. Luring and grooming of children is also a prohibited act under this law. So by luring or grooming, we mean ayan. So luring refers to any act of communicating. So both luring and grooming are deceptive acts, no, on the part of a person. The difference is luring is more short term, na mas parang inentice mo lang siya on a short term, that's luring, whereas grooming is a more of a long term, no, establishing relationship of trust with a child. And then later on, slowly, no, you are conditioning the child to eventually give you these photos voluntarily, no. Pero itong luring is different in a sense that it's more short term, gaya ng sinabi ko, and then you make a person believe something na on a short term, and then you give, for example, monetary consideration to the child, no, binigyan mo siya ng pera para malure mo siya into doing it. That's luring. But grooming is different in a sense that it is more of a long-term pattern of acts, of a series of acts, where you eventually you get the trust of the person. Pwedeng yung grooming is example ganito. Pinapalabas mo na you are bata ka rin, no? You are also a child na may relationship kayo, kung ba mga ganun, pero hindi kayo nag-engage into video calls, syempre makahalata rin, no? So pinapalabas mo na bata ka, and then until eventually you develop a relationship with the child, and then magpapakita na siya ng mga materials, mag-send siya ng materials sa'yo, willingly, kahit na pumayag siya doon. Again, pwede pa rin i-penalize yun, no? So, that's how grooming works, no? They convince you that you are in a relationship, you give money or you give affection as a consideration, no, and then later on they give their trust to you. So kunwari, sige, wag mo na lang wag mo na lang i-distribute, or please don't distribute it, but I will give it to you. Until that time, no, yung mga ganung acts are considered as grooming. Sexualizing children in any way, no? Yung to sexualize children by presenting them as objects of sexual fantasy, or you make controversial subjects about children's fantasies, no, whether online, in a digital or online format, no? So, for example, creating stories, even just creating stories about having sex with children, mga ganun, and then accompanying with a photo na hindi naman necessarily na lewd yung photo, no, pero if you are kumbaga depicting a child in written form, no, online, sexualizing them in the form of message boards, in the form of comments, in the form of stories posted on the websites, no, that could also be considered as sexualizing children. Or taking photos of children na not necessarily lewd, no, pero they are being sexualized in a way because of the caption, no. That could be a way of sexualizing children. So, and that is also prohibited under our law. Pandering is also prohibited under this act. Ano ibig sabihin ng pandering? Advertising, no? Ina-advertise mo yung ito, ay bili na kayo dito. Kasi sa ano actually, in social media or in other platforms, there is something called na bilihan ng videos. You buy videos, you get access sa mga links, no? Online or through digital platforms, you get these links, no? Pero pandering means yung pag-advertise that you are offering child content, no? Sige, bili na kayo ng mga video ng mga bata. 17 and below itong mga ganyan. You posted it on Telegram or Viber or Facebook or Messenger or whatever, no? Or through a website, regardless of whether the actual content is children, no? So kahit na sinabi mong bata yung mga yan, mga ganyan, kahit hindi naman kung pagbukas naman nila ng link, hindi naman talaga bata yung content, pero just the act of advertising, promoting, offering those service is already pandering, and that is considered a violation of the law. So kahit na clickbait lang yan, even if it's a clickbait na below 18 women enter here, like that, no? Kahit na yung mga may ganung advertisements lang sa iyong website or sa Facebook or whatever, no? Then it becomes pandering, violative of the law. Any form of distribution, no? Advertisements to publication, print, broadcast media, or even just causing the advertisement, publication, printing, broadcasting, or distribution of any of these materials in any form, brochure, flyer that promotes OSAEC and CSAEM, kahit na hindi yung actual na material, even if it's not the actual material, but you are distributing flyers, distributing brochures, or any material, no, that promotes OSAEC or CSAEM is considered as violation of the law. Any way of supporting, no, kahit na yung pag-support lang, no, pag-support supporting by buying, subscribing, joining, donating to a website, or supporting a website that hosts OSAEC or live streaming ng mga bata, ng mga child sexual abuse and exploitation materials, that could be considered as a violation of this law. So just supporting, no, pag-subscribe mo, pag-join mo sa mga groups na involving children, alam mo na, for instance, na pang bata yon, pero you still joined it, you donate to it, or you support the website in any manner, that is also prohibited under the law. Okay, this is this is a very controversial topic, no? Possession. Even just the mere possession of any form of child sexual abuse or exploitation material, kahit na nasa phone mo yan, no, kahit na na-access mo yan through Messenger or any form of possession ng any form of possession of sexual abuse and exploitation material is already considered as pangalan nito as a violation of the law. Kahit isang video lang, kahit isang picture of a child that is naked or in a compromising position, uncompromising position, that is already considered as possession. And if you possess more than 3 or more of these videos, photos, etc., there is already meron ng presumption ng batas that you are intending to sell it. No? There is already intent to sell or distribute or publish or broadcast that if you have 3 or more. Hindi na kailangang pruwebahan the prosecution does not need to prove that you are actually selling it, no? The law is already presuming that you have intention to sell it if you have 3 or more of these materials, no? So ayan, that's possession. Accessing, no? Hindi mo man pinossess pero na-access mo through through a website, through Telegram or through other means, that is already punishable under our law. Just mere accessing, kahit hindi mo yan dinownload, that's violation. And of course, conspiracy. Conspiracy to commit any of these acts, no, is already considered as a violation of the law. So kapag nag-conspire ka with another person to commit this, no, hindi man ikaw actually yung nag-commit but you conspired to commit it, then that is violation ng batas na. this is very important, a very important thing to remember. The consent of the victim is immaterial. Regardless kung nag-consent man yung victim o hindi yun importante. As long as he or she is a victim of OSAEC or CSAEM, kahit pumayag pa yan, kahit nagpabayad pa yan, it doesn't matter. Hindi rin defense ang lack of consent ng bata. No? Kung kahit na nag-consent siya, kahit na nag-agree siya dun sa arrangement, it doesn't matter. Kahit na milyon-milyon pa yung binayad mo dyan, kahit na alam naman niya yung ginagawa niya, as long as he or she is a child, that is not even a defense under the law. So, if you'll see, no, sobrang stringent, sobrang curtailing nung batas, to the extent that lahat ng mga acts that you can possibly think of are already included in this law. So, what are valid defenses? Ano lang yung mga exceptions dito? What are the exceptions under this law? Kasi there are, in-recognize ng batas that there are instances where you need to access these materials. And when are those? Una, medyo ano siya. First is protection of a good Samaritan. If you are a good Samaritan and you were able to access this, no, as long as it is done in good faith, it is necessary to prevent access or dissemination of the CSAEM. For example, you open the material, no, para burahin, no? Kasi siyempre, in order for you to delete a file, kailangan mo muna siyang buksan, 'di ba? So, if it is done in good faith and it is necessary to prevent others from accessing or disseminating the CSAEM, and it is reported within 24 hours from the act of blocking an internet access, removing website and domain, or taking down a shared video, picture, or messages, you are exempted. No? Pero, kailangan i-report mo. No, you need to report it within 24 hours that you deleted something para hindi ma-access ng iba yung material. That is the protection of a good Samaritan, and that is excluded under the Prohibited Acts. So, if you are a good Samaritan acting on your goodwill para to help the child na hindi siya ma-exploit further, then that is the protection of a good Samaritan. In fact, yung mga social workers natin who need to access these materials para to close them or para mabura yung mga materials, you can do that as long as you notify the proper agencies for within 24 hours. Okay? And safe harbor exception. Ito, applicable din sa mga social workers natin, applicable to sa police, no? You accessing, possessing, or recording any material of a person for the purpose of complying with the duties under the law, the reporting to government authorities, legitimate investigation and administration of criminal justice system, legitimate policies, scholarly and academic purposes with the requisite ethical clearance, ay valid exceptions dito. No? So ano yung mga exceptions natin? Una, yung mga, of course, law enforcement agencies, no, cybercrime groups need to access it so that they know that it exists, no. For example, yung mga sa investigation, and even yung mga nagre-research for policy, those who are researching for policy, scholarly work, and researching for academic purpose are exempted as long as they have the necessary ethical clearance. Now, if they are working for a university, they need the ethical clearance of the research boards. So, these are the only two exceptions, no, to the requirement na kailangan mong na hindi ka dapat maka-view or mag-access ng mga materials na to. No. And under our law, remember, no, intent is presumed. If you access this, if you downloaded this, your intention to commit the act is presumed. Huh? So in fact, they don't even need to prove that you are gratifying yourself because of those materials. There's no need for that. No? So now, what are some of the principles involved in the prosecution of this OSAEC and CSAEM cases? Sorry, that's CSAEM. No? Jurisdiction. No, the jurisdiction of these cases fall under the family courts since it involves minors, but hindi nga, like gaya nga sabi ko kanina, hindi necessarily na minor hindi necessarily minor hindi na siya child. So all cases of OSAEC and CSAEM are under the jurisdiction of the family courts. Now, what family court? no, where the offense was taken, where the offense was committed, or any place where one of the essential elements of the offense is committed, or where the child is found, or where the child actually resides at the time of the commission of the offense. Lahat yan pwedeng pag-filean ng case. So kunwari, hindi siya taga, kunwari dito sa Kamiling, no? Hindi siya taga Kamiling, pero dinala siya dito sa Kamiling para mag-produce ng material, o pwede siyang ma-filean ng kaso dito sa Kamiling. Okay? For instance, taga Pangasinan siya, pero dinala siya dito sa Kamiling for purposes of sexual abuse or exploitation. Pwede siyang ma-filean ng case dito sa Kamiling because one of the necessary elements of the offense is committed here. Or even just the transport of the child from kunwari, dinala siya dito, no? Dinala siya from Pangasinan, dinala siya Kamiling, pero eventually lumipat sila ng lugar, no? They relocated to another place. It can also be prosecuted here in Kamiling. So pwede pa rin, no? As long as one of the elements of the offense, lalo na if the offense is transporting a child, it could be the jurisdiction, the family court here may have jurisdiction over the case. Now, the presence of the child victim in the trial is not required. Hindi required na umattend yung bata as a witness to the offense. No? Kasi just the fact nga na that it is accessible online means that there is already offense committed against the child, and there's really not much you can get from the child, no? Wala kang makukuha doon mula sa bata. Kasi even just the fact of accessing it or just looking at it's not necessary. No, hindi necessary na nandoon yung bata during trial as witness. No? Hindi yun kailangan. And at all times, no, lalo na sa mga natin, sa mga social workers natin dito, sa mga house parents natin, if you encounter cases of OSAEC or CSAEM, the right to privacy of the child is always paramount. No? In any stage of the investigation, prosecution, or trial, lagi niyong poprotektahan yung privacy ng bata. Even in law enforcement agencies, even in investigative agencies, dapat to ensure that the files of a child is confidential. The identity of the child is confidential at all stages of the processing of the case. So look out nyo, as social workers, look out nyo yan to inform ang ating mga law enforcement agencies, investigative agencies, researchers to ensure the privacy of our children. Importante pa rin ang 'di ba sa mga normal cases nga natin, 'di ba? We are very careful with disclosing information about children. How much more in cases of OSAEC or CSAEM, right? So, ayan. Now, who may file a complaint? This is interesting because hindi lang yung offended party ang pwede mag-file. Even you can file. No? So, sino siya? Offended party, the parents or guardians, ascendants or collateral relatives to the third degree of consanguinity, officers, social workers, or representatives of a licensed child caring institution such as Rehoboth is pwede yun, and all other institutions there. As long as you're a licensed child caring institution, you can file a case if the custody of the child is with you. Any officer or social worker of the DSWD can file a case. Even the local social welfare development officers can file a case. Any barangay official can file a case. Any law enforcement officer can file a case. At least 3 concerned responsible citizens residing in the place, no? Kahit 3 responsible citizens, bakit 3? No, kasi baka it might appear na na parang retaliatory, mga ganyan, or mga trip lang ng mga tao, no? At least 3 concerned responsible citizens, no, can file cases, or any person who has personal knowledge. Ibig sabihin, nakita niya, nalaman niya through some means, no, of the circumstances of the commission of any offense under the law can file a complaint. So this is a public offense, no? This is a public crime. Meaning, anyone who has personal knowledge of the offense can file a complaint. No? Especially yung ating mga primary carers ng mga bata, just like the parents, the guardians, or yung mga mga learning child caring facilities, no? So these people can file cases on behalf of the child. No? So anong mga services available to the child according to the law? This must be, eto sa mga MSWDOs natin dyan, kailangang available itong mga ano na to, mga services na to sa ating mga bata at the LGU level. Kailangan merong temporary temporary protective custody ang mga MSWDO dyan. So if you believe with a certain level of confidence that the child is a victim of OSAEC or CSAEM, no, kung sa tingin natin ay may nangyayari may OSAEC or CSAEM that is going on, you can take temporary protective custody kahit ayaw ng magulang. No, kasi usually nga, gaya ng sasabi ko kanina, perpetrators are parents. Most of the perpetrators are parents, someone that the child knows, no? Kasi they already have the confidence, They already have access to the child, they have confidence over the child. So, the chances are mas marami dito ay mga cases actually, in fact, this is very, very, very specific, pero sa mga encounters ko with social workers, ang mas madalas daw actually are stepfathers. Those are the more common perpetrators here. According lang sa of course these are anecdotal accounts and not really national statistics, but according to some social workers that I work with, sinasabi nila ay mostly sa mga step parents. In connection with the DSWD and DOJ, they must render legal assistance and support to CSWDOs or MSWDOs. And in fact, we are offering our services sa Commission on Human Rights if you need legal assistance and support when it comes to cases of OSAEC or CSAEM. Because as the CHR, as the National Human Rights Institution, we have investigative powers, we have legal we have power to render legal assistance to MSWDOs and CSWDOs. In fact, even training. We can do training sa inyong mga individual na individual na mga municipalities. In fact, one of our partners, I don't know kung nandito sila, si Ma'am Sheila sa Mayantok, no? I conducted the training then sa kanila early this year. Early this year ba or late last year? Parang ganun. And you can always tap us, no? Pwede naman kayo mag-tap gaya nung sinabi ni Miss Junie kanina sa mga nandito sa Rehoboth, no, na pwede kayong mag-request ng assistance from us, be it legal or promotional activity. LGUs, the LGUs are primarily responsible for providing the needs of the child who is a victim of OSAEC or CSAEM. LGUs ang may primary role dyan na mag-provide ng needs ng bata. It's not caring facilities who are primarily responsible, it is LGUs who are mandated under the law to provide for the child's needs while they are under protective custody or while they are away from the custody of their parents. Kasi mga bata yan. And as a human rights concern, it is the state's concern, it is the state's obligation to provide for the child during this time. And the DOJ Board of Claims can provide compensation for victims of OSAEC or CSAEM. In fact, in our case as CHR, we can also provide some financial assistance, no, in case that case was investigated by us. Kung kami nag-investigate ng case and we found that there is a need to give financial assistance sa bata, we can do that, no. But of course, due to the constraints in the funding, medyo konti lang yan, but still it can help, no. So what services should be available to the child? Emergency shelter or appropriate housing. Dapat may shelter yung bata while he is outside the custody of the parents. Hindi pwedeng pagstayin niyo yan sa opisina. No, unless your office has a shelter, no, emergency shelter in your offices. Okay yan, no. Counseling services. Importante yan mga MSWDOs natin, kasi not all LGUs have counseling services. Legal services kailangan mabigay sa kanila, no, which includes information about the victim's rights, procedure for filing complaints, claims for compensation, and other legal remedies available to the child in a manner that is presented to the child in a language that he or she understands, no. Medical or psychological services, of course, kung may mga traumatic yung experience, so they need trauma-informed care. Medical services kung kailangan kasi they are sexually abused, no, kailangan nilang medical treatment, kailangan yan. If they contracted sexually transmitted diseases, kailangan nila ng medical assistance for those, no. Livelihood and skills training gaya ng ginagawa ng marami sa ating mga child caring institutions, no, may livelihood and skills training, but you can also do that in your LGUs. And educational assistance, we need to assist them so that they can be reintegrated fully in the community And that includes yung kanilang educational assistance. Okay? So, ano ang role ng local governments? You can also pass ordinances to localize efforts against OSAEC and CSAEM, taking into account yung local culture and norms. No, kunyari, if you spot a place in your area where the risk of having these cases are high, you can install yung mga protective measures ng government there in those places. No, maglagay kayo ng mga community-based initiatives to address the OSAEC at the barangay level. You can conduct trainings for barangay officials and you can tap us for those. No, pwede kayong barangay training on OSAEC and CSAEM, because these things, no, as you know, yung mga barangays natin, ang primary responders natin when it comes to cases like this. Kasi this happens in the home, mas madalas sa barangay yan nangyayari. No, sa barangay nangyayari yung mga ganyan. Kaya if you need responders, kailangan nyo ng barangay, you need to train them. No? Prevention, kumbaga, awareness campaigns, no, and ways to rehabilitate and reintegrate the child under local social welfare and development office, no, including all forms of support and protection to all victims and survivors. So yun yung ang laki ng role ng mga local governments natin dito, and sobrang laki rin ng role ng ating social welfare and development office in both preventing and protecting our children from OSAEC or CSAEM. So that's the role of local governments. In case you need us, no, for requests for assistance and resource persons on human rights concerns on OSAEC, CSAEM, or other child, women, or other vulnerable sectors, you can contact us through these hotlines here. Screenshot nyo na lang sa mga nasa bahay, no. You can I also included here my personal contact details if you want it to be a personal conversation with me. Then this is my my contact information. So needless to say, the CHR is here for in case you need us in protecting or promoting the human rights of all. And with that, maraming salamat po. Thank you for listening, and if you have questions, you can raise them. Thank you. Let's try to answer some questions if there are questions in our chat box. Okay. Wala naman tayong questions sa chat box. Anyone who would like to ask a question, you can raise your hand and unmute. Dito po sa ating facility, kung may mga tanong din po kayo, you can raise them. Yes, ma'am.
Sir, meron ako isang naiisip yan. Habang nag-lecture na, clarify yung study natin papers na ano po sa minor yung victim, it could be adult yung facilitator, kasi meron dito yung distribution sharing, but kung minor to minor, like hindi na natin kunyari, one of the minors ang access to a minor, hindi na natin ma-trace out kung kanino galing yung na-adult yung video or your material. Ano yung case? Is there a case of that? Or how do you protect both yung mga nakakuha na
Okay. So, yun nga, no, just like the usual in our criminal justice system, usually, di ba, ang children who are 15 and above can possibly have criminal responsibility, no, as long as they have discernment, no, pwede silang magkaroon ng criminal responsibility. However, yun nga, alternative kasi yung hindi siya imprisonment, no. So they can be held liable, they can still go through the hearing, kaya di ba, kung if you're familiar with our juvenile justice system, those who are 15 and above who acted with discernment will be placed in facilities such as Bahay Pag-asa or yung mga RRCY, no, in case that there is a promulgated decision against them. So yung ang magiging ganun pa rin yung proseso, no, they can also be held liable here under this law, no. Kaya lang yung liability na will be limited only to the provisions of our Juvenile Justice and Welfare Act. It will be processed the same way. no? And also yung support natin sa mga sa mga CICL natin in this regard is is still in place. Dapat meron pa rin. We are kaya nga importante yung role ng mga dito ng mga MSWDOs kasi on both ends sa be it sa victim at sa perpetrators, they need to do something about it. So yan. May katanungan pa po? Yes. Okay, so you can report in our law enforcement agencies, particularly the PNP, if you have contact to the cybercrime unit of the PNP, then that would be an appropriate reporting mechanism. But if you're not privy to the information of the PNP, then you can report to your local PNPs, local law enforcement agencies. Because the PNP has a cybercrime unit, you can also report it with the National Bureau of Investigation if you want it investigated and separately, no. But in general, the PNP should suffice. Reporting with the PNP. So yun, ang tanong was about kung saan pwede mag-report. Yes, ma'am.
Kanina kasi part of our discussion is ano itong mga pwedeng gawin para ikaw ay maging part ng case. Yung sabi mo kasi kanina is yung recruitment. Under recruitment, ito yung parang in-offer mo, kunyari may adult na makilala, tapos introduction niya is anak niya, kamag-anak niya, or tapos they came to your house, pwede mag-recruit ka mag-stay, but you don't acknowledge na yun pala yung gagawin niya. Ano ang magiging role mo doon? Ako pinayagan kong gamitin yung bahay namin. Pero without my knowledge, hindi ko lang alam na ganun pala yung gagawin niya. And yun pa, nag-trust naman ako kasi anak niya or kamag-anak pamangkin niya or ako niya, yung pakilala niya. So,
of course, there is a reason to file a case against you, no? But of course, you can rebut it with evidence to the contrary. No, pwede ka mag-testify na I had no knowledge of that. Kasi of course, while intent is presumed, you can always present evidence to the contrary, no? I had no knowledge of the transaction, and I didn't know that they are doing it, and maybe you can show na from where I'm standing, hindi ko I don't see what they're doing, mga ganyan. You can testify to these facts, no? Of course, you can always rebut it with additional with evidence, no? So pwede naman po yun. It's not automatic that it happened in your home, then you are automatically liable. But if there may be a case where you are supposed to know but you don't know, in that case, the judge might decide against you, no? Because you're supposed to know, because it's your home, right? But if you can say, for example, that they are staying in a different room, or they are staying in a room that I don't want there's nothing suspicious happening, mga ganun, you can always contradict that with those. But of course, if you're supposed to know and you don't know, then the court might punish you for it. So again, if you have questions, if you have encounters of actual cases like this, kasi trust me, it's not as remote as you think, no? It happens a lot, no? And lalo na the Philippines is one of the countries with the broadest access to internet, no? Alam mo yun, one of the parang most users of internet in the world. Definitely it could happen in your places. May question po ba from our audience?
Good morning, sir.
Yes, good morning po.
Sir, mag-ask lang ako, pwede bang ipagsabay yung maraming batas sa pag-file ng case against the perpetrator, hindi lang yung 11930?
It depends, sir, no, kung anong kasi of course, if you can, ang pwede is yung RPC in relation to another law, no? Pero you file pwede mo naman i-file yun kunwari separate acts, no? Pero isang pangyayari pero maraming possible violations of the law, pwede po yun, no? Pwedeng sabay-sabay yung i-file yung mga yun.
Like yung sir, yung 11862 and 7610, pwedeng isabay kay 11930.
Usually that is in relation to ang nakalagay sa mga batas natin. Kasi technically it's pwede kasi siyang parang yung in relation to 7610 yung natin, yung OSAEC natin, no, it could be lumped together. Pero yung criminal liability nun will be determined by the judge at kung ano yung higher ang penalty. But it's usually in relation to yan. Ang nakalagay doon in relation to 7610 or whatever. Pwede po yun.
Sige po, thank you sir.
In fact, kung meron pang if incidental to yung OSAEC is merong other offenses committed, you can also include that as one of the allegations. Okay? I think Miss Jenny, okay.
Hello, sir.
Yes po. May meron po audience.
Si Jacqueline Bautista po ito from DSWD Tarlac Employment. Meron po akong tanong sa chat pero sasabihin ko ulit baka hindi nyo makita. Kasi, di ba ang is ilalagay yung victim sa center. Pero in case na may threat, yung mga may threat sa center, aside from reporting it to PNP, ano pa ang gagawin ng center?
Depende po kung anong klaseng threat ang tinutukoy natin. Ano po bang klaseng threat yung pinag-uusapan natin?
Threat na let's say yung bobombahin ko yung center or bigla nilang papasok para kunin yung bata, yung mga ganon.
In those cases, no, pwede po kayong mag-seek ng in cases na security yung concern, that could be raised sa PNP, no? Of course, reporting with the PNP is important. And in fact, if those threats are have a possibility of happening, po yan, that you can file a case against them in court, no, for the threat done. Also, you can employ the assistance of the SWD in these cases because they are primarily the government agency responsible for the protection of children, no? So or the shelters kasi accredited din naman usually ng DSWD. DSWD center nga po kayo Oo nga pala. So yan po yan sa inyong sa inyong higher ups. But ang first line of defense po nyo dyan is the PNP and of course the local government unit, the barangay involved dyan sa sa lugar ninyo, no? So ayun po. But you can also seek relief from the court to prevent someone from entering the center. Pwede rin po kayong mag-resort to court action, no? Pwede kayong mag-file ng case para for the meantime para temporarily ma-prevent yung tao from entering your premises.
Pagkilala po yung tao. Pagkilala namin yung threat. Oo. Let's say ibang tao ang gagamitin. Opo.
Adi yung kung sino man yung ginamit, siya yung i-report.
Let's say yung may aali-aligid sa paligid. Oo.
Then seek protection from the PNP or the local security officers.
Okay. Pwede rin po na i-transfer sa ibang center, ibang shelter, I mean yung bata, yung victim.
Of course, under the doctrine ng best interest of the child, if you think that the child is if your child is at risk in the facility, you can transfer, of course. Pero yun, kung yung if the child is at risk in your area, pwede niyo siyang ilipat, pwede siyang i-transfer. But of course, you need the proper documentation, you need to go through the proper procedure kasi meron naman pong meron naman pong procedure. But if it is court ordered na doon siya mananatili for the meantime, you need to seek the approval of the court.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Ma'am, ano po yung tanong niyo kanina?
Actually, that's an engagement with this question. And ito naman, on the other comments, katulad na, kasi you have to, sabi natin, merong marriage, ang privacy naman, then important to family or anong guardian. Yun, at dadalhin na for the emergency shelter. Sabi natin kanina, there must be, or it is a requirement that there must be an immediate and emergency shelter for this person.
Yes.
Na ipupul out. Kasi they cannot keep them in their offices or in their houses.
Mm-hmm.
Yung ako kasi mag-visit lang ako kasi grabe as na delivery with IJF. And then ito nga yung inaano ng IJF na please help us kasi ang most of the time the problem is there is
No facility
na magkukuha ng mga victim. So ako at the time nag-grab ako kasi ang aming client capital kasi hindi naman ito talagang abuse section physically, pero this is online na. Pero ang ano pa naman, are we able to handle, is there such a requirement na ang shelter ay pwedeng mag-accept nito, pwede bang ihalo sa non-OSAEC yung mga bata o so for example, isa o ibigay na dalawa. Kasi kung ito ang major class just for this and we are licensed to operate for this purpose, diba naman ganito ng kasi sasabihin naman ni and also saglit lang po ito while we are processing the case and ito yung maghanap ng proper
shelter. Ma'am, in those cases, alam mo, I'm also working with the RJJWC or the Regional Juvenile Justice and Welfare Committee, ano, and highlight na yung need for facilities or shelters na available. In fact, in a lot of the municipalities in Tarlac, in fact walang may even bahay Pag-asa wala sa Tarlac eh, 'di ba? So even RRCY wala yata meron ba? Sa Pampanga 'yon, eh, 'di ba? So the thing is the lack of shelters is an actual problem of the community, ano. Now, in terms of emergency shelters, pwedeng dito. Emergency by mean temporary emergency shelters. Pero hindi pwedeng pansamantagal. No? It has to be very immediate need lang talaga, pero otherwise hindi siya pwedeng i-commit dito ng mas matagal because the approach, the treatment, the intervention needed is not within the competence of this facility to handle, di ba? Because that will require, for example, kahit na sabihin natin online yung abuse is kailangan ng mas intensive na psychological interventions, mga ganyan. And there are specific, actually the DSWD I think has a specific program for those kinds of for these kinds of cases. Kaya nga may accreditation ng ating centers, depende sa specialization ng center and the capacity of the staff to handle it. So hindi naman po pwedeng ihalo siya for a very long time dito sa facility because hindi niya nakukuha yung tamang intervention na para sa kanya. So for emergency purposes, maybe the LGU can coordinate with you for very very briefly na magstay yung bata just so he or she has someone to look after. There's someone who will look after him or her. Pero in the long run, hindi po pwede yun. And also, siguro dahil nandito naman yung ibang MSWDOs, this is our continuing appeal with the RJWC and of course the CHR, as an independent national human rights institution. We appeal to the LGUs na magkaroon po tayo ng mga center, specialized centers na mga ganito. And of course, dahil iba-iba rin yung needs, iba-iba rin yung center, who will be handling these cases. For isang center that meron lang segregation ng clients, importante po na magkaroon po tayo ng mga facilities na to. In fact, in certain cases nga mandatory nga sa batas na may mga facilities na to but these facilities nonetheless are not there. So mahalaga, importante po at urgent po yung pangangailangan natin para sa mga facilities na ganito. May question po tayo dito sa chat. Hello po. Just wanted to ask, in relation to Miss Jacqueline's question, what if the perpetrator is a high-profile person po? How can we seek help to the authorities to avoid such threats or bribery, specifically para iurong ang case po? Of course, the powers that be in this country are so powerful that sometimes even our criminal justice system is corrupted in such a way, no? Pero siguro if it's a high profile person, we put our trust anyway to our law enforcement agencies, because we can put the law in our hands, no? There's really not much alternative that we have when it comes to these cases, no? Kaya but as social workers find comfort in the fact that you did what you had to do, no? Kung ginawa mo naman lahat ng kaya mong gawin, and then nag-agree pa rin sila to settle with the high profile person to have it para hindi na magtuloy sa kaso, then you did what you siguro na lang, no? You can't blame yourself for that because that is not within your control. Pero if the things that within your control you already did, pwede na yun. No, I mean, you can legally, at least you are not liable. Pero of course there's that feeling na hindi naging successful. But some people have different sense of justice kasi. No, if you think about it, yung pera na yon, the monetary consideration na binigay sa kanila could be the sense of justice that they are waiting for. It could be it could save their pwede na silang they can live a comfortable life with the money that's given to them, and maybe to them that's the justice. That's justice, no? And we can't impose our sense of justice to others, unfortunately, no? So yeah, I think that's kung inurong nila yung kaso, then as long as you did what you had to do, then you have no liability. But again, syempre it's heartbreaking na despite all your efforts, hindi naman nila tinuloy, because of course the threat is always there, di ba? The threat of harm to their families is always there. So tanggapin na lang nila, and then to move on with their lives because with that money, that's not within our control. Hindi na natin control 'yan. But the courts, andyan naman po ang ating courts, andyan naman ang ating andyan ang ating police to give justice to the victim. But if the victim or survivor does not want to be to go through all that, then it is within their right. But again, this is a public offense, so anyone can complain.
Hello po, may I add up po?
Yes po, sure.
Actually, pag ganyan po kasi mga for social workers po, we avoided the meetings of the victim and the perpetrator or their family. Kasi sometimes, usually po mga relatives nga po yung mga victims, ay ang mga perpetrators natin. So, we tend to isolate our victims from the perpetrators po. Para po hindi sila nagkakaroon ng communication. Kasi once po na nagtatagpo na po yung mga magkakapamilya, doon na po na down yung mga puso po ng ating mga victim, at doon na rin po nag-start na magkakaunungan, or they are begging for the release of their family members po. So, yun po yung practice po sa court setting naman po. Kung nasa court na po yung kaso. And
okay po. Sige po. Siguro to comment on that, no. Siguro in the case of family members, of course the DSWD will have to the DSWD or the local social worker will have to exercise yung yung kanyang power under the law to provide to protective custody dun sa bata, no. That's a different story kasi it's the family who is the perpetrator. Pero if the family is hindi naman yung family yung perpetrator, then it could there could be a chance of reintegration within the family. Then it's also another viable option.
Yes po, thank you po.
Okay, so again, thank you po. And if you need us for anything, please contact us through the information that I provided kanina. And again, thank you po sa ating mga online dito, sa mga sumali sa ating online discussion. Please give your evaluation. Meron po tayong evaluation link dito sa chat box, so that yung mga hindi pa nakapag-evaluate po, please do so. Miss Junie?
Magandang umaga po. Ayan. Thank you so much po, Attorney Jan, for discussing with us yung tungkol sa OSAEC and CSAEM. We hope po that you've learned a lot from this lecture na ang obligasyon po natin is to always respect, protect, and fulfill yung ating mga human rights. At kung may magagawa tayo, gawin natin ng lahat to do our part po para maprotektahan natin yung mga bata na kailangan ng tulong natin. So with that po, huwag niyo pong kalimutan sagutan yung ating general evaluation kung saan ito po ay magiging verification po ninyo na natapos po ninyo yung ating lecture ngayong umaga na ito. At kung meron pa po kayong mga gusto pang lecture na malaman o i-request, so po kayong magdalawang isip na mag-send po ng letter invitation o pumunta sa aming tanggapan sa Diosdado Macapagal Government Center sa may Maimpi, City of San Fernando, Pampanga. At kung gusto niyo naman po na i-send ito via email, ay meron po kaming official email address na regofc3.promotion@chr.gov.ph na isa-send ko po sa ating chat box. Ganun din po, don't forget to hit like and share our Facebook page, Commission on Human Rights Regional Office. So with that, thank you so much po for attending our lecture today. Mabuhay po kayong lahat at magkita-kita po tayo sa susunod pa nating mga lectures and trainings. Maraming salamat po. Huwag po muna kayong umalis sa mga sumasagot na form, mga nandyan pa, pahabol po. Mag-photo ops po muna tayo dito sa ating Zoom. Paki-on lang po yung inyong mga camera. Ayan. Para po ating makapture yung ating attendance online. Sige po, buksan lamang po ninyo yung inyong mga camera. Ready na po ba? Ang gaganda nga. Wow. Sige po. At the count of 3 po, no? 1, 2, 3. Ayan, next po. Next panel. 1, 2, 3. Ayan. Thank you so much po on behalf po of our Regional Director, Attorney Leo Ray Valmonte. Nagpapasalamat po ang buong Commission on Human Rights Regional Office 3 sa pagtangkilik at pagdalo ng ating lecture sa umagang ito. Thank you so much po.
Thanks for tuning in. Watch out for the next episode of KaraPADcast.